Well, welcome to the Chronic Health Collective. This isn't just about a community, it's your fresh start. We've gathered the best coaches to help you reclaim your energy, heal from the inside out, and live with purpose. Whether you're longing for more energy, deeper healing in your relationships, or a life that feels more aligned and fulfilling, you're not alone anymore. I'm your host today, Jessica Hammock, trauma recovery and transformation coach. And I have invited one of my close friends with me who's also a part of the collective, Leandra Frey. Welcome, Leandra.
Hi, I'm so glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you too. Sometimes we have to connect over these things, right?
Yeah.
But our focus this month for February really is looking at that connection, love, healing piece of things. And I thought, what a better way than to have a conversation with Leandra about some of these things, because this is her specialty and it's merged with my specialty. I could talk all day long about some of these things, but I think so many of our audience out there is in this relationship space. And so I feel like it's really intentional for us to come together to talk about relationships, but from a perspective maybe that we don't often get to talk about collaboratively together. So when you think about heart-centered relationships, what do you see in how most people approach love today? What do you see missing from that component when you think about that?
Oh man. It depends on the age. So with my the young 20-year-olds, which they don't usually need my help, but I am in adult ministry. I work with young adults in a ministry that I have, so I get to see them fall in love and also end relationships. There's a lot of innocence, a lot of idealism. The men are a little bit easier. I would call it the young men. They're a little bit more heart centered. They really are looking for their. I can see them really leading with their heart. But the girls have the young women have a little bit of a different idea when they're looking for a husband. And I think that's just part of the product of the society which we live in, which is, go get your career, take care of yourself first. So they're a little bit more cautious and not as optimistic about getting, married, about like they want to fall in love, but I think I can literally hear the parents in the background, particularly the moms in the background. I can just hear it, or they will tell me what their mom has said. So I'll be like, oh, well, I can imagine what's going on for the mom. So on the 20-year-olds, it depends on who it is, right? But when you get into our older demographic, and they're still considered young, but anyone that's over in their 40s and 50s and now have carried, some trauma with them, a lot of it is protection, right? They're going into the self-protection. Women specifically, I've heard the term, but I saw you recently mention it, called hyper-independence. Is where I see it. So as much as for me as a life and dating coach, and having gone through, a divorce, and then I'm now since remarried, it's really easy to go into that hyper independence piece, even though I didn't have anything traumatic, really terrible happen in my childhood or anything that I was carrying. But I still had the society in my ears that was like, you can do it by yourself. You can do it all. You don't really need anyone. So the gooiness of being in a relationship, it didn't even occur to me that you can feel warm feelings with someone, or center on someone's values and what they're really working towards. So it depends on where they are. And then on the men, I'm sorry, I talked about the women, but on the men on that side of the spectrum, I think they're still willing to go again. Like they're still willing.
Yeah.
They're not so much as protecting their heart. It may take them longer to get there, but I think they're willing to still go again. But yeah, and also, I mean, you see it, we're inundated You don't need anyone.
Yeah. That hyper independence, do you find that that's like that the women have an awareness that they are existing in that, or not really,
No,
that
they have
there's
no
not
idea.
even?
Yeah. I think not that they're not aware. I think they're super aware of it, but they wouldn't call it hyper independence. They wouldn't see it as a negative thing. They would see it as a badge of honor,
Mm,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, and because it is celebrated, part of it is
yeah,
celebrated. So it's
yeah,
really hard to like, hey, do you notice when you're trying to solve everything and do everything
right,
that you're missing out on letting a man be a man and step into his greatness and, allowing, whether that's opening the door, paying for the bill, or coming over to fix, especially, especially if you already have your own house, right? They can
mm-hmm,
come over and fix it, but then their mind goes, well, my first husband never fixed anything, or he left me, or he didn't do anything. I had to learn to do it by myself, and I'm sure not about to let another man come in
mm.
and fix my screen door, or
Yeah, yeah,
um, or
almost like they lose what they've,
they lose their
like,
femininity. The art, not I wouldn't say the femininity. It was already a struggle in the first place because of the world that we
yeah,
come in. If I always say if you were born, because our generation, and especially the generation that's in their 50s and 60s right now, they were born in this late 60s, 70s,
mm-hmm,
and like we're the height of the hippie feminist revolution. We have Mary Tyler Moore, and then you
yeah,
get into the 80s, we have The Working Girl, great movie, and it's just like, and then you start watching Disney and you see men just emasculated,
yeah,
right? And so you can see that play in to, and it's really slight. It's super slight. I don't think people realize. So when you say awareness, like I think they're aware of it, but they don't know that it's causing a disconnect if that
yeah,
from what
yeah.
they really want.
The true feminine and masculine flow of like being able to be in that and
Yeah.
be cared for. And do you see, would you say, like, from that perspective, from a masculine, from men, that they're able to still be in their masculine for when they're coming, like the men that are in their love and dating again?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you?
It still exists. Yeah. For them, they're doing their best.
Yeah.
I think. But now, if you get the comments on here, if you're ever on a Facebook group, I'm on the Facebook groups where people are
Yeah.
single and dating, especially over a certain age. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, it's possible someone will come in and say, no, there is no gentleman out there.
Yeah.
And but yet, when I talk to women, if they're out dating, I will hear them talk about the gentleman that they're meeting.
Yeah.
I will hear that, they open the door, they plan the date. I hear that they, uh, asked how they were, little things that like
Right.
still exist. It
Yeah.
still exists. So, but it's almost like you have to point it out to them. You almost have to point it out to, or at least that's what I do as a dating coach. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
it sounds like you were possibly taken out on a date this weekend. And they're like, oh, yeah, he did ask me for a walk after our coffee. So, but I think we just get in our zone, and it's not a negative zone. Like, I don't want to say
Right.
independence is terrible. It's a valuable resource. And especially if you did come out of a divorce, you fight for survival, right? And that's
Right.
the part where people still think that they're in trauma, even if it's from like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then if they experienced real trauma when they were a little kid, um, then they are just reenacting that right now. And I mean, I
Yeah.
know you work with clients that are in such as that. Sometimes they come across and it takes a while for that to reveal itself, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So
Yes, I've had those conversations with clients, and I'm like, we're in the middle of like healing from the trauma of the divorce, and then they're like, I'm dating again. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, okay. I probably would not have chosen that for you right now, but
right now, yeah,
okay. And
yeah,
I think you bring up a really valuable point of like this, the unawareness sometimes of like things like hyper independence and how we got there because of survival, but there's also an unawareness of like all of the things that are cues of trying to survive versus cues of safety. Like,
Yeah.
what being able to recognize, like, it's a cue of safety that you were able to go on the walk with them, right? It was a cue of safety that you let them open the door for you. And the little things along the way are ultimately, I think, and I would love to hear your perspective too, little things along the way are typically how one shows up as falling in love, right? We fall in love with the little things along the way. We don't fall, yes, there's big grand gestures
Yeah.
sometimes, but ultimately those love interests that occur is because of the little things along the way. Would you say that is?
Oh, 100%. I have, well, I'll give two examples and remind me of the second one. But the first one is, for a long time, because people, they don't give each other a chance, like on first dates, especially like they'll say, I didn't feel a spark, didn't feel anything, and then forget it. The second date doesn't happen, and I have a whole thing on that. Please go on the second date. You don't have to feel a spark, and especially if you are in the
Yeah.
safety or a lot of times if we're already still just trying to stay safe, you're not going to feel anything. But I also tell women, if we're already in our mid 40s, after our mid 40s, our hormones don't work the same way they did when we were in our 20s, but we do have our heart and head that is working for us, right? We're able to make more informed decisions. But a lot of times I give them this example. I was like, how many people do you know that met at work, right? Where'd y'all meet? Oh, we were working together. We couldn't stand each other, or he was on this team. And then we kind of gradually got to know each other. And then I noticed he did this. And then there was a switch, right? All of a sudden their mindset, there was something that they did or said, but the relationship was already there. They were already watching the character being built, and who they liked. And I said, most times if you hear a story like that, it was about a year, 6 months to a year being on the same team or nearby or something.
Right.
But you had the benefit of watching who this person was, their values, how they were in moments of stress, how they were moments of happiness, when they were bored, irritated, moody, all the things, right? What people look like when they work under a deadline. And you don't get the benefit of that when you're dating, right? You just don't, right? You're literally going in blind until you take the time to get to know them, which is where the small moments are created. So all to say, I had one of my clients. Now she wasn't coming from anything traumatic, except she did lose her husband. So the trauma of being a widow for many years. She is now she has fallen in love. She went through the whole process of dating, several people, getting to know them. But the guy that she's with right now, she's like, she goes, I dated him for a few months. But what I saw in the first 3 months is not who he is today. Like, I wouldn't have caught any of this if I hadn't spent the time getting to know him, because none of this reveals itself. And she was talking about the little things. She's like, how he is with his friends, how he is when he's working on a house, when he's holding his grandbaby, or how he is when he's dealing with his grown son, when he's running a business. She's like, but you can't see this when you're dating, right? Like, at the point you have to make a decision when you're dating, like, okay, I'm gonna decide to go with this guy exclusively, but not get enamored right away where you're like losing all sights of everything, but still kind of observe it. But she's still unpacking this guy like he's brand new, like a Christmas present. And she's like, and I love what she said. She's like, I did not know this man a year ago. None of this was being revealed on any of the dates we went. So I tell people it's like layering, unlayering time, but all of it takes time, and it's those tiny bridges, right? Those tiny small things. But we also live, I digress, in a microwave society. But
well, I think
what else do you
I think you bring up a really valid point, and that's this idea that, there is a difference between chemistry and familiarity. And those familiarity things can sometimes be a negative pattern that people gravitate to because it's a familiar trauma pattern. But there are so many people that want the instant gratification of a chemistry thing, and they don't instantly feel that, but they don't also have an awareness of the fact that they might have dealt with something that has completely shifted who they are and what they've come through from a nervous system perspective. That it's not that time heals all wounds, but it's that the action that we apply during the time, and are we at a place where we've anchored in some safety to be able to actually observe the little things? Or, when we're on a date, we're getting to know somebody, we're talking, we're like getting the head knowledge collection of those, but we're still filtering through, is this a safe relationship to continue on? And also being able to kind of discern, like, is this familiar for a reason that was hard in the past? So I'd love to continue this conversation. We are up for our first break, so stay tuned for more after this.
Nice.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
When you look in the mirror, do you see skin that's just dry, tired, and stressed? It's time for a new ritual. Introducing Deep Love, the Blue Botanical Face Cream by Coolness. We've captured their tranquil essence of blue botanicals in a cloud-soft formula that deeply soothes irritation and restores your natural, healthy glow. This isn't just skincare, it's an act of self-care. It's Deep Love. Find your calm only at coolness.com. Scan the QR code now to visit our website.
Have you encountered a situation or an event in your life that's caused you to feel stuck? You were on a journey to live your best life, but thoughts and feelings from the past keep showing up and has caused you to feel like you're not headed in the right direction or being the best version of you. Meet Jessica Hammock, trauma recovery and transformation coach. Not only will she teach you about emotional and mental health, she's here to help you unwind the treasure of who you are from the trauma of your past so that you can walk in the truth of your identity and break free from what is holding you back so you're able to nurture the best version of who you're meant to be. The time is now. Let's get started. Yeah, so jumping back into this, I would love to hear kind of this idea of when you think about this moving into something new, like a misconception, like love will fix me, or I have to be fully healed before I can be in a relationship, is like two different spectrums of this. But what are you seeing coming up when it comes to like individuals engaging in that kind of thought pattern, especially if you know that there's been past trauma there? Is there evidence of that? And and what are some of the things you've used to sort of help them reframe or move forward?
Yeah, usually if someone is coming off, well, the first one is like if they're coming off a divorce, right? Because a lot of times people will show up at I have a free called dating Q&A event where people can get help getting their questions asked, like what is online dating like? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. And about once every couple of months, I'll get a brand new person that the ink is not even dry yet on their divorce papers. Because they're, either the divorce has been long and drawn out, or they're just like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be because that didn't work out. And,
Yeah.
So usually the first thing I say, not while we're there, but a lot of times when I'm doing a one-on-one with them afterward, I ask them, probably want to wait a year. Usually I'll recommend at least a year. No, not minimum of a year before you get back out into the dating world, just to go through the healing part. Some people it takes longer, but for the most part, I think a lot of times especially if a divorce has been drawn out, if you live in Maryland or something, you have to do a long separation. I think it's like a year residential separation. Here in Texas, only 60 days. So you can like be in and out of love like that. But
Wow.
up in other places, it can be a long time. And if there's kids and residences and stuff, it can take a while to unpack that. So a lot of people are like, well, we were already sleeping in different rooms. I mean, our marriage was dead for a long time, but there's such a shift in identity from being married, estranged, to fully divorced. There's on the emotional side, the physical side, court side, even on the courts, and then on the spiritual side, right? Because it's an actual covenant. And so there is there's a physical formation and unpacking that happens from that day that those papers are signed that people don't really think about. They think it'll mean nothing, just like people when they don't want to get married. They're like, it's just a piece of paper. I'm like, oh no, there's a whole identity shift on that. But I tell people, I'm like, hey, you remember when there was an identity shift when you got married? There's a huge, big identity shift.
Yeah.
It also happens when those papers are stamped. So that's a big one that I give, right? Just a year, a year. And then I tell them, come talk to me in a year, right? Or just, we'll still be here.
Right.
Can come hang out, but I'm not going to tell you go date. I'm going to say, go, I'll say, find peace, find something that you love, make sure you have a community of people that you want to be with, whether that's a family, church, grief group, if you need to really get through work with the therapist, anything that you can do in that realm, and then also be creating joy for you along the way. It doesn't mean like I cry for a year and then I go find joy. No, we do it simultaneously. Now, the people that have gone through that, right, they're a year out, 5 years out, 8 years out, they may have, a lot of them, again, we find out in the middle, like, we still have some unpacked things. But we have a couple that say, well, I'm still working on myself, to what you were saying. I'm still working on myself, and I need to work on myself. And a lot of times you can't really work on yourself unless you're in relationships, right?
Yeah, so
in friendships, because a lot of times it's like, and we hear that, and I'm not, as I say, self-love. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, like, love is an act, right? If you're going to go love on other people, we need to know what that looks like when you're on a date. Do you know how to ask questions about themselves? Do you know how to listen deeply? A lot of times when we're in a hurt state, we're only listening for what we want, right? And we don't really know how to have that open curiosity mind. So let's go practice what you were really looking for in your first marriage, right? A lot of, I just had this on Friday, and then early in my marriage, never asked me about myself. Okay, I get that. But now you're in a new space where we say, this is what you really desire. Let's practice what you really want. What does it look like? Because when you're thinking of the other versus how can I say it, stay, then you're forced out of your comfort zone, right? So that's more, I mean, that's not necessarily a therapeutic type of thing, but when you are in an act of discomfort, right? It's uncomfortable to go on a date and then practice being fully present with someone that you don't know, or even worth it, or you could be dud. Is this date even going to last for that long? I mean, even if we get on a second or third date, is this even going to last long? Is it even worth it? And I tell people,
Yeah.
it's absolutely worth it because you're in the practice of loving another human being other than yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, yeah, there's so many reasons why I can say, being by yourself does not help.
No, I love that so much because there was a program that I went through and we would do this thing called Rules for Being Human. And it's 10 or 12 rules out there, depending on which one you look at. But the one of them was others are merely a mirror of you. What you love or hate about yourself or someone else is a reflection of you. And so I think to what you're saying is like, there's only so far we can work on things with just us if we're not in some type of relationship with other people, be that friendships, romantic relationships, or whatever, because they're reflecting back to us what those rough edges that need to be like polished and shined in us. And that doesn't show up if you're by yourself. I mean, cats and dogs don't reflect that the same way.
No, they don't. I mean, your teenagers will do that, but
yeah.
And I hear a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah.
And I love the 10 rules for human beings because even when you're like, because you have a daughter, but especially when they get into elementary and the concept of what a friend is, right? Yeah. It's someone that likes to do the same things you do and someone that has your back.
Yeah.
Right. They want someone to support them. Like, do you have it? And yes. I mean, like if we look at all childhood stories,
right.
It's like, who was your best friend? I mean, was your ride or die, right? That's more middle school, but in elementary, it's really tiny. Like, do they like the same things that I like? Will they come sit next to me in the cafeteria or in the playground, or will they support me in the middle of a fight? Right? I'm not talking a knockdown fight, but
right, yeah.
And those rules still apply in our adult life. That's for some reason we somehow forget about.
I know.
And also in dating is that, I mean, we need to like some of the same things so we can do, we get to know each other. But it's that, are you going to come sit by me? Dale and I, he likes to sit on the same side of the booth as me. Now I say, hey, that's great for married couples and maybe if you're, relationship, but maybe not for first dates. But there is the high idea like, hey, do you notice me in the room? Right. It's like when we walk into a dot meeting, you and I might not have a chance to go all across the room, but you always acknowledge me. I'm like, I'm like, Jessica.
I know.
Why are so many people here?
Well, right. There's that energetic connection. I think that we know that you can feel somebody's energy up to 6 feet away, right? And so when we're entering spaces, is there enough of an energetic match or connection or signal even that when you're on a date or when you're in a dating relationship, you walk into the room, that their energetic signal shifts inside of them, that they're, looking for you or connected or is it, that's good.
Yeah. And, but to that, like, cause I tell women, you don't necessarily have to go on a dating app, but I encourage them to go on Meetup, and meetup.com for people that don't know what it is a great website to connect to like-minded people. If you like to go play pickleball, if you like to go for hikes, book club, board games, like if that's your thing, there's a group for it. But one of the things when they're looking for a guy, I'm like, go sit next to them because it's a group. So if there's a board game night, go sit next to them and acknowledge them. If there's someone you like, acknowledge them from across the room. Like, go say hi, go indicate interest. Be their friend, right? That's the beauty about meetups. 26 years, it's about establishing friendships, even if you're looking for a female companionship. But there was one thing I was going to say. I forgot where it went. It was
sorry.
We'll get there. It was like the 20.
The rules for being human in the mirror.
So if you are dating, right, one of the things, especially, you're working on yourself, is that if it's been a long time since you've been out in the world, right, in the dating world, because you were married for 30 years, or, last time you went on the date was 1997 or something, you don't know who you are right now. I mean, you know yourself, if you've had kids, your grandma, you're a different person. So even though you're like, I know what I don't want, because you've gone through a divorce, what some of the characteristics you've seen from your husband, you don't know who you want until you're actually meeting people, right? And then you get to meet people, and then you're like, oh, I really like that guy. I really like what he said. Or I don't like his station of life, right? Because he might be raising little kids and you are done raising your kids.
Yeah.
But I had this one lady tell me, she goes, I didn't really know. She goes, until I really started talking, like going out on dates or meetup. She was actually using more meetup than she was dates, which I highly recommend. She was like, I was actually getting to know who I was in my new space and in a safe environment, right? Because there was people, fun like things, and learning to listen for what am I looking for, but then how do I want to show up, and how to be someone's friend first.
Yes.
Right. And so, but she's like, I didn't know all those things about myself until I went out of the house to not just work on myself, but left my safety to go be with strangers who no longer become strangers, because you're doing the art of familiarity, right? To know people. And we've learned, you and I have learned this through our networking groups, like Know and Trust, that, really getting to know your audience, getting to know the people in the room. It's just the same way with dating, except that there's a romantic portion of it. And you do have to go on one-on-one eventually, but yeah, so those are some things.
That's so interesting. I was looking at my notes because I was listening to this conversation the other day of this guy talking about like our behaviors and things from a different perspective that I hadn't really heard before. And he was doing a lot of mind training related conversation, but he said, this I knew, their brain values predictability over success. But he said, identity produces our predictable behavior, our habits. Identity is what our nervous system predicts we will do under pressure. And identity change can almost feel like death. Like we have to change the story. And I think that's so true of what you're talking about, like in the dating relationship, especially if you're coming off of a long time of singleness or having gone through a really difficult relationship, is you're telling a new story. And that can be like the unawareness. And the same is true with trauma. When you're healing from trauma, you're telling a new story and with yourself as the character. And that can be really uncomfortable and unsettling to some people, because everything in our nervous system and our brain is like, I don't know if I like this story. It's like, you get to tell the story, right? Like, what's the story you want to tell in your mind? Like, what do you want this to be moving forward? And finding those new things. I'm curious about a topic that I hear a lot of controversy around in different circles related to just more trauma and recovery, and even generationally, I hear this a lot. And that's this idea about like setting boundaries. And some people view it as really cold and selfish. Some people view it as like taking care of yourself. Talk to me about like how you navigate boundaries in dating and those kind of movement forward, and still kind of keeping with this place of like staying engaged and healing. Like, what does that look like? Like, instead of you're a cold-hearted, like you're setting a boundary.
Oh yeah. Well, we could talk forever on boundaries.
I know.
So, usually, and I've worked, so I mean, I work with a lot of single moms that have actually never been married. So they have really, they come with having really good boundaries, because they had to do it on their own. They were never married to begin with. So they were doing the single mom thing from the get-go, so they're pretty good with their time, their energy. They have a lot of hyper independence, but that was out of survival. Right. So they're coming into a new identity, especially when their kids go off to college. I mean, they're pretty excited about this new identity, that they're done raising their kids. Awesome. They're not going through the typical empty nest syndrome that we see with dual parents. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. This is the whole thing. There are boundaries. It's a little different. And again, I can always see the differences in demographics. It's really interesting. But my women and even if they've been married, I've seen it sometimes with the widows and with the, and we'll talk here a little bit more, but the divorce, the ones that were divorces, if they come off saying, I was married to someone that was narcissistic, a lot of times I'll hear, I was married to a narcissist. Not a problem, I understand. But you'll probably be able to speak to this more after our break, about the attraction of someone that doesn't have boundaries, and how a narcissism can exist really well in that dynamic. So we'll talk a little bit more about their break, how I help them on the other side.
Yes, sounds great. We will be right back after this message.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Hi, I am Leandra Frey. I am a life and dating coach. I help women that have gone through a divorce, widowhood, or if it's been a long time since they've been in a relationship, I help them get back on their feet, gain courage and confidence to get back into the dating world and find the love of their lives in 6 months or less. The reason I do this is, having been divorced myself, I have been out in the world, the dating world, what I would call the gauntlet. And it can be hard when you've come off a divorce, or you've come off a long time breakup, and you find yourself starting and stopping. And sometimes you stop and many years can go by. And so what I'm here to do and help you is to help you along the way so that you don't give up on yourself, and that we learn to create resilience in your dating so that you can keep going and not waste 5, 7, 12 years of your life thinking there's no one out there for you. There are many people out there for you. There is someone looking for you today. So that is why I do what I do, because I love bringing people together, because we are all created for love and connection.
I love that. We are all created for love and connection. And sometimes those attractions and boundaries are not always what serves us well.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult when we desire that safety and that connection with each other, but we have maybe a really poor example, or like Dr. TikTok, who I affectionately call it misdiagnoses and gives misinformation. I feel like people should have to sign some kind of waiver or paper when they listen to Dr. TikTok. This is not medical advice, and not all advice on here is valid for you. Like, please seek a professional.
I know, they need the little banner at the end, like the thing that they do at the end of regular commercials.
Yes.
So on the boundaries, what I was going to say, for the women that are coming off, having come off this codependence, narcissistic, we know that there was no boundaries, right, that existed. And a lot of times you'll hear them come out of the divorce and they're like, I finally feel like myself, and I'm finally going back to myself. And, there's this whole like, oh my gosh. And then they get back into a relationship, and then we find the pattern revealing itself again. So I usually share, this is what it looks like when you're dating, right? This is how you know if you're a people pleaser, or if you're if you're headed that way again, because it won't be the guy that's wrong. It'll be because you're not holding the boundaries, and we got to create awareness protocols and do it from love, not from hands on the hip. I'm going to put it my way and don't come my way again. Those things. No, there's a place, but we have to be aware of it. Right. And, so I think a lot of times, and a lot of people, and it may not have just been from the marriage. It may have been when they were younger, because, women, especially if you're born before 86, we didn't grow up with boundaries. It was like, go kiss your uncle, go give him a hug, go do all these things that you didn't want to do. And we just grinned it and bared it and thought, well, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So some of it's not any fault of their own, but awareness is key. And so when they're dating, it'll show up. Usually it'll show up like, so when you're going, especially if you're online dating and people are coming from different, they can show up right away. You'll know, like right away. So if people are coming from, I live in Fort Worth, you live in McKinney. Well, you can set you can set parameters how far people are going to drive for a date. But we live in a really big area, and my clients live all over the country. So some of them are in San Francisco, and they have parameters where we're going to have to drive far. So I tell them, hey, just meet a halfway point and make that part of the protocol. So, there's many websites, Meet Ways, Meet Halfway, that you can type in, you're looking for a coffee place midway. If you find yourself saying, well, I'll drive over to San Jose and you live in San Mateo, or here in Dallas, I'll drive to Fort Worth. Like, that's no problem. That's no problem. If you start to find yourself doing that, then we know you're in a people-pleasing state, or you're going to head that way, right? And so now, if you really want to do that, great. But it usually starts with something really small, because you're afraid that you'll miss out on the date, right? Well, if they don't want to drive this way, then they probably, and then what if I miss out on a great guy? What if they think I'm being a diva? What if they think I'm being selfish? You're just asking to meet them halfway. So that's an example of a boundary. And a lot of times, usually people are pretty agreeable on a first date to meet halfway, but on second and third dates, people, and especially I have people that are like, I don't like to drive at night, because, I help women all the way from their 30s all the way to their 70s. So I got some that are like, I don't want to drive at night. I don't want to wear my glasses. So either someone's taking a lift, or they're taking, or they just say, I don't drive at night until we get into a committed relationship, which I love that, right? Or protocols, and the ones that know exactly what they're up for flourish better. But the ones that are like, well, I have to drive out to the boondocks again because he didn't want to come out of the house because he has this routine and blah, 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 blah. Then I'm like, well, that's an example of, you're going toward a way where you're only going to be doing what he wants to do. And remember, dating, or even in a friendship, it doesn't have to be equal, but so it shows up tiny that way. And then we go into, is that how you want to show up? Is that normally what you notice? And then if they go back in time, they can start to realize, oh yeah, I know I started just saying whatever restaurant you wanted, whatever vacation you wanted. If they go back into their marriage, where they started deferring their desires, their wants, the things that mattered, because it was better to defer than incur someone's, maybe they experienced it as wrath, but it could just be disappointment, but we still experience that the same, which I'm sure the work that you do with people think that bears are after us.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's just someone's face is grimacing versus.
I know. I tell people all the time, just because somebody makes a face doesn't mean like that they have disappointment in you. It could be they had a bad breakfast burrito and their stomach is really bothering them. Like, how are you interpreting things? Like, what are you making it mean?
Yeah.
What are you making about you, the situation? And we are so conditioned. I think I was watching this clip about behaviorist parents and how we're so conditioned to behave a certain way, to respond a certain way. And, it's led history-wise into what they call different attachment theories in parenting. Like, I see that a lot in couples where we'll have an anxious attachment to an avoidant attachment, and they gravitate towards each other. That like, I'm hyper vigilant to make sure everything I do is pleasing to you. And then somebody else is like, I don't feel like showing you anything, because if I show you anything, then that could result in this whole thing. And I could just, and they ultimately connect to each other. But I love what you say, like trying to find those things. And I think that's a really key tool in healing, both in trauma and in identity and relationships and moving forward, is when you identify those little things, whether the little thing be a cue of safety or a little thing be where you start to sacrifice, is like giving yourself permission to make a different decision in those moments, like not staying stuck. I'm curious, like so let's say that you have that person who realizes or is brought to the awareness, whether it's by you or friend, somebody else, that says like, you're making these little decisions that are, again, putting you in this place to sacrifice your safety or sacrifice boundaries in a way that you may not have realized, but now that you're in this awareness, doesn't feel good. Like, I don't like this. How do you help somebody like lovingly exit a relationship without, falling again back into this place of like, I did it again. I'm the problem. Like, I can't fix my, like, here I go again. Or the famous line, which I despise, this: when will my picker is broken.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I hear that a lot.
I know. My picker. Well,
yeah. On the exiting gracefully, I actually had 2 clients exit on the same day this past season, this past December. 2 relationships. It was on the same day. I'm like, I'm going through trauma here. But it was interesting. They were both gracefully exited, and it was awesome. And I was really proud of them, because one was, I think one was a little bit of a boundary issue. The other one was, the guy was not actually serious. So we had a little bit of I wouldn't call it incompatibility. It was someone. I had one client that really wanted a committed relationship, and the guy just wanted to have fun, right? Just wanted to keep.
Yeah.
We had to have, before she had to have that conversation, we had to have, we got to determine the relationship. What is he up for? Are y'all even up for the same thing? It probably could have happened earlier in their relationship. The relationship didn't last. It wasn't that long, but still, it was how to deal with grace, understanding if someone is not wanting the same thing that you want, which in this case, she was looking for a long-term relationship where it was going to be eventually marriage, then we don't want to waste that time. So that wasn't necessarily a boundary issue, but there was a graceful exit where it wasn't, no one ghosted, no one got mad. She was able to have the honest conversation. Hey, what are you up for? This is how I'm experiencing you, not this is what you're making me feel, right? That's one of the big things. Like, no one makes you feel anything. What do you think about what they're doing? Yeah, I was like, and being really careful with the language. I'm like, remember, you have agency over your thoughts and feelings, over the impact someone's having on you. Yes, there is an impact, no doubt about that. So, while it was a really hard conversation, she felt so much agency. Like, there was so much power in her deciding ahead of time, this is what I wanted. Not that she wanted to end it with him, but she was going to end someone that wasn't valuing her time the same way that she was. Right? Wanted to be on the same page. The other one also exited nicely. It was becoming a boundary issue because he wanted to meet her kid right away. They had each other's kids, and he was ready to start moving the relationship really fast. And she's like, I don't think I'm ready for it. And I was like, what are your protocols? We had talked about, and everyone's different about this when they introduce, if they have kids at home, everyone has different protocols for when they're ready. And a lot of times I say, if they're going to meet your kids, let it be at least until you're in a committed relationship. They were not quite there. They were almost there, but he was like, what, it's Christmas. we're getting ready for Christmas. It's the holidays. You met my kid already. So there was almost, and we had talked about it. I was like, don't let someone notice what you used to do. You would just let them be like, well, like,
Yeah.
sure, you can come over. Sure. I mean, she's going to be here anyway, so you might as well meet her. Because that's normally how it shows up, right? How a boundary, I wouldn't say a boundary violation, but I would call where you're just not upholding what matters to you. In this case, your relationship with your kid, meaning someone else. So that was a really big breakthrough for her to say no to that, the meeting, and then eventually realizing this was not the right fellow for her, and to end it with grace instead of just letting it die off. I'm like, don't let it die off.
Yeah.
I tell people, if people are ghosting you or letting things pitter patter, do not be that way. We want to be kind no matter what's happening. But that's another. But yeah, so because at the end of the day, when since we're talking about love and being present and boundaries and all those things, love and connection, we're still human beings at the end of the bit, and people deserve kindness and a well thought of conversation, especially I think in each of these cases, they had been dating for about, I think 3 months, 2 or 3 months, which is normal course when you're about to end, either it's going to go further or it's going to end, right?
Yeah.
It's the process of dating. You might have to do it a couple of times, but that's what you want until you find your person.
Right. So I know that we're getting close to the end. I hear so much conversation about red flags, trauma responses, all that stuff.
Oh,
yeah. What do you guide clients on when you think about, like, really what are green flags? When you think about
that's a good one.
Green flags relationship, like, because they can operate from a place of hypervigilance about all the red flags when they're coming out. Everything is dangerous, or like, oh, the bear's chasing me, right? So like, when we teach emotional safety, it's recognizing those small things. But in a relationship standpoint, what are the real, true, like, green flags? Like, hey, I need to remind myself that this is a good thing here.
Yeah. Well, usually when I start working with someone, we go over their values, right? Like, what is it that, whether it's their faith or their fitness or their family. So now someone might not have the same values as you, but if there's something that's like, hey, y'all really connected on, that's great. He asked about you. He remembered something you said 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Right. That's a big thing. People, especially in this day and age when we're just consuming tons of content, and then he remembered something, even if he had to write it down somewhere for him to remember.
Yeah.
That's a huge flag. Someone that cares. Obviously people are usually looking for someone to ask about themselves on a first date, but that might come later, and that's okay. Right. The curiosity, learning something new, a big green flag is if you're able to disagree and then realize that you disagree about something and being okay with the disagreement. And this is how we think, but that doesn't mean we have to split, right? It doesn't mean that we have to end unless it's like, affect the relationship 10 years down the road. But yeah, those are small examples. And then, the tiny little things. I mean, if he makes you laugh, great, but not every, I'm like, my person didn't have to make me laugh, but he makes me laugh a lot most days. I got, that wasn't one of the values, but I got lucky on that one because he is really, really freaking funny.
Laughter is such a great cue for safety. And so I would just, first of all, say thank you for being on the show today with me and having those conversations, and let everybody know there is hope. There's hope in healing. There's hope in this place and opportunity, and being able to find love and connection, but looking for it from a place of, what are your cues for safety? What are your values? What are the green flags? Like, looking for those things and not getting stuck in the my picker is broken mindset. And, we could stand a whole nother show. So if today's episode spoke to you, we want you to know not to go it alone. You can book your free consult with one of our expert coaches at chronichealthcollective.com for personalized support, whether you're working on trauma or relationships. But you can also subscribe to our monthly magazine for expert tips, where you get 11 coaches that elevate your health, mindset, and relationships. You can catch us every Tuesday live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, or on YouTube, or watch us any episode on E360 TV, and YouTube is Chronic Health Collective. So thank you for tuning in today. Your transformation starts now, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.